They just don't quit, brother.
Yeah, man. They don't know any better. They think the Lakers are just another team. You got us a couple of times. In fact, what did they say? They said they should be 2-1.
That's what they said.
This series,
they're not wrong.
They're not wrong at all. After that game one, what felt like the Lakers just had better schemes, better players, better, I don't know, effort, whatever, which is understandable now that you look back and go back and think about it, because they just finished playing 2 7-game series that they had to climb back from. We mentioned that before the series started. It was evident in the game one of the Western Conference Finals that maybe they were feeling a little bit hungover. Game 2 and game 3, they came ready to play. And this is what I hoped would happen. I didn't think it would happen, but I'm glad that it is, because we have a series now and an interesting, fun team to watch play, really on both sides, because the Lakers have all these expectations, and the Denver Nuggets, I mean, they're surprising people who slept on them like I did all season long, despite being 3 in the West. They're seeing what it's all about now with this Denver Nuggets squad.
Yeah, Tiki and I were talking earlier, and I was telling him the DNA of this team, the fortitude of this team, the future of this team, the spirit of this team. I mean, their future is so bright, and I know that Nugget fans don't want to hear that now as the lead, like, oh, we have brighter days ahead, meaning or implying you'll probably lose this series, but the future's still bright. Hell, if I'm a Nuggets fan, I'm just holding on to that rope that's been frayed and, weather beaten for a little bit here, and still hasn't snapped on me. But what's amazing, I attributed the first game to just pure mental and physical exhaustion. I mean, come on. You got, not that the Lakers didn't play well. They did. They executed. The Nuggets were just shot, understandably so. Game 2, the great player makes a great play at the buzzer. Okay. Nuggets could have won that game. If that thing hits off the back rim, it's tied 1-1. And then who knows if last night unfolds the way it did. You never really know. But if AD misses that shot and they play the same game they played last night, they're up 2-1. Listen, here's the concern for the Lakers, all right? The deficiency that you and I have talked about all year, all right? Yep. The one thing that really, I guess, forced us to tap the brakes a little bit was the lack of reliable support around their 2 mega superstars. And, when Rondo came back and started playing so well, it kind of offset that perceptually, and we kind of kicked that down the road a little bit and said, well, maybe that doesn't apply anymore. But when they shoot, 23, 24% from behind the arc, which they did last night, when they shoot sub 65% from behind the arc, from the free throw line like they did last night, as great as LeBron and AD are and were and will continue to be, the other guys, look, Caruso, 1 for 7, did nothing, and the Nuggets role players stepped up and played better. I thought this would go 6. Now I'm really convinced it's going to go 6. And at that point, that's the Nuggets. Who knows?
Yeah, it could go 7. It could be very interesting, and they could find themselves in the NBA Finals. We don't want to get that far ahead of ourselves. But you're right, BT. Alex Caruso is not on this squad to be a scorer. Like, if he's taking 7 shots, that means that everybody else is off, and they're trying to be creative and find ways to get him and get open and get shot. He's a good defender. He's tenacious. Yep. He's not always the most athletic, he is athletic, but you know what I mean. Like,
he's pretty bouncy.
He's not guarding your A guy. You know what I mean? But he is.
Well, he's not Patrick Beverley.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But he is reliable.
Yeah, he is.
And dependable, and he's smart as hell, and he makes it difficult. But if he's having to take 7 shots, and he's going to go 1 for 7 like he did last night. The challenge for the Lakers, BT, and you mentioned this as from their role players, but it's really their stars. I mean, there was a technical given, and I'm forgetting who it was on, and LeBron took the 2 shots, and they got the ball. Like, he's sitting there, and I'm watching LeBron get ready to take the shot. I'm like, he's missing this, man, and he missed it. He missed the.
What was he in
edge.
Between routines like usual?
Yeah, it's like you can see it. You know what I mean? And I almost feel like at this point he knows it. And it was a critical part of the game because the Lakers played poorly, really poorly early. They shot bad. They took bad shots. They weren't getting back in transition defense, and the Denver Nuggets were taking advantage of it. At one point, running up a 16-point lead, and then by the time they got to halftime, they had cut it to 10. I was like, man, this could easily be 25 right now at halftime with how bad the Lakers are playing, and you could feel it, right? You could feel like the tension with the Lakers, and they needed someone to lift them, and it was going to be LeBron or AD. but neither one of them could find it. And so if LeBron and AD are just a little bit off here, it gets tough for this Lakers team to weather the storms that are going to come, not just from the Denver Nuggets, but whoever they face if they get to the NBA Finals.
Of course, Miami or Boston waiting. They're playing tonight. I mean, listen, I thought there was a lack of championship tenacity last night, for lack of a better description, from the Lakers. I mean, it's the special teams, and there's, we know the special teams recently. It would be the Warriors. I wouldn't even put I wouldn't even say that the Cavaliers, special in the annals of Cleveland for sure. Special for sports talk. LeBron brought a chip back to Cleveland, 60 years of futility, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of multiple years, plural, of success, really it's the Warriors. And when you have championship tenacity, you come out and you step on somebody. You're up 2 games to zip. You drop the dagger at the horn games. As tough as the Nuggets are, you'd have to think there'd be some fragility, some vulnerability somewhere, exploit it. Yeah. Instead, they played poorly. Their shot selection was bad. Their efficiency was worse. Now, listen, they carved that 20-point lead. They basically deleted the whole thing. Yeah. So they eventually showed that resolve. But where was it from the opening tip? That's one thing that concerns me about the Lakers. There's that gelling, that expectation, there's that championship a pursuit that is either there or it's not, and you can't fake it.
True, but
what I mean?
Should we have expected it? I mean, when we talked earlier, BT, this is what we got to. They're new. I mean, most of this unit is new together, and from LeBron and AD and Rondo all playing together because LeBron didn't play really half of last season. This is all new for the Los Angeles Lakers. Whereas for the Denver Nuggets, and this is astute that you brought this up, they've been together for a while.
I said this to you off air, Teak.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It was off air when we were talking earlier. Yeah. Like you brought this. It's an important point. So if you are a team that has trust with one another, and when things go awry, as they're going to do in sports, really in life, but we're talking here in sports, you got to have somebody you can trust that's going to pick you up and get you back. And I give a ton of credit to Coach Mike Malone, for how he's able to let these guys just. Because you don't see him yelling, you don't see him getting upset. You don't see any of that stuff, except when he got mad at the NBA for not having his family around, which was awesome though, right? It shows the emotional side of him that is there, and his players have that same DNA in a sense because they have been together for so long. So in some regards, the Nuggets, who have been working on this experiment with a couple of new additions, Michael Porter Jr. being one. They've been working on this for 3 or 4 years. Millsap, exactly. And so for the Lakers, who are new together, doing it with star power, that may sound like an advantage, but I'm not sure it's actually as big of an advantage as we want to say.
Okay, so then maybe we need to recalibrate, how we, and this will apply for the 2021 season, something we'll get into coming up next, when it's going to start with Adam Silver speaking on that. But then if that's true, and I believe that it is, not that you can't overcome it, but it's an obstacle that's a little larger than I think most people calculate, then nobody should have picked the Lakers to win the championship this year. Nobody should have picked the Clippers to win the championship this year. Nobody should pick the Nets to do damage next year with Durant and Kyrie Irving and a new coach learning how to play together. If that's the case, we need to incorporate that in our preseason expectations, something we usually don't.
We don't. Yeah, we react. We leave it out.
We react to the player movement, but we offset something that will we ignore something, or at least minimize, marginalize something that has always been important in team sports. That's chemistry.
Yeah.
It's chemistry. It still matters.
It's almost, it might be one of the most important things in team sports.
Well, especially basketball.
Yeah,
and the offensive line.
It's 5 guys.
Yeah.
Yep. And when we get in the Carson Wentz, that's going to be part of the talking point. The offensive line, the 5 guys, those 5 important guys standing in front of Carson Wentz are old or young and not congruent. They haven't been together for a while.
Yeah.
So, you're right. If you don't have that kind of cohesion to know how to push through the tough times because you've done it before together, you're right. We do discount it. We don't we don't talk about it enough. And I think the reason is because one-off games in the NBA in the regular season, they matter, obviously, because you need to win a significantly more number more than you lose. And, on any given night, given what's going on with these guys, whether it's, he had slept poorly or was out all night or whatever, who knows? Like, it almost doesn't matter because the better player is going to win in the regular season for the most part. Mm-hmm. But once you get to the postseason, it's a different animal. And especially once you're playing these series where you're scouted more, you've studied more, you've practiced more against specifically what these teams are going to do. Yeah, I think chemistry means a lot. And the Nuggets have it a lot more than the Lakers do, at least on paper and in theory.
There's no doubt. We know LeBron, superstar. We know AD, superstar. We know Jokic, superstar. The one player, and remember, you and I talked about this coming into the series, like which player's profile could really rise the most here. Mm-hmm. No matter what LeBron does, he's still LeBron. No matter AD, obviously, with a big series and eventually a championship, he would benefit.
That's who I said. I thought it was AD because he's never been this deep and never been this significant for a team this deep into the postseason. So AD has a lot to gain.
No, and it was a great one, and I could have easily gone in that direction. I threw out Porter. I threw out Jamal Murray. Kuzma a little bit, but the one debate outside of the three absolute lock superstars in the series is where does Murray reside? And there's been nights where he looks like an absolute superstar going for the 50-piece. There's nights where he looks like an all-star, a solid all-star. There's nights where he looks like an intermittent all-star. But I want to seriously, there's been a little fluctuation, which makes it. Plus, he's not a 25-point per game guy during the regular season. No. He's 17, 18, 19 points a game, which makes this cut from Coach Malone interesting. The evolution of his playmaking. We talk about his scoring and his shot-making prowess when it matters. Here's Malone on his ability to distribute the rock.
He's starting to get the respect from the other teams, and they're game planning. They're blitzing him. They're double-teaming him. They're giving him so many different looks. And that's what part of being an all-NBA type of player is about.
Tiki, and that is it's like an understated way of saying that this guy's arrived, a very technical way. He could just come out and say the guy's a superstar and it pretty much equates to the same thing. There's a million guys in this league that could put the ball in the hole, even sometimes when they're double-teamed, okay? There's a million guys that could shoot from distance, a million guys that could attack the rim, some guys that could do both.
Yep.
There's not a ton of guys that have the long-range prowess, the ability to carve up the interior paint and score, and when the defense overreacts to you, to make the right winning play.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray has it.
No, he does. And what's he shooting? I saw the stat, and I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. What he's shooting from three-point range in the postseason. I want to say it's
46.
It's like it's stupid.
Yep.
From 3-point. I'm not talking about his field goal percentage.
A lot better than Steph Curry usually shoots from three in the playoffs.
That's exactly right. I want to say you're right. It's like 45 or 46% from 3-point range, and you see him put up these shots, and it's just like it's not touching anything but the bottom of the net. And when you have that kind of confidence for a guy who's never been on the stage, right? He hasn't been to the Western Conference Finals yet. He hasn't had to fight through series like he did the last couple. It is telling. It is superstar-ish. Now, we won't collectively, meaning everybody in the basketball world, say that until he, beats a superstar. It's that old cliche, you got to beat the best to be the best. If he finds a way, and this Nuggets team finds a way to beat the Lakers and get on to the NBA Finals, and even regardless of maybe what happens there, I think he does hit that superstar status, and we start talking about him a lot more frequently than we do currently, because his name doesn't come up in the regular season. I don't remember talking about
not as much, no,
as much as we probably should, and maybe that's just because in the Western Conference there's so much greatness for the Lakers and the Clippers that we talked about in the regular season, and the Doncic's and the Dallas Mavericks, and it just even James Harden's winning scoring titles with Russell Wilson. They're going small. Like, there were so many other storylines. We didn't really pay attention to this maturation evolution of Jamal Murray becoming a star.
I don't even think that he needs to necessarily win, because Chris Paul has long been positioned as superstar. What's Chris Paul won?
True, but it's consistency. It's been
true.
over a decade,
True, but here's what happens. What happens is it's almost like outside of like the rare instance like Mahomes type, like to win an MVP or to eventually become an All-Star, like there's this process where like you get bumped up in increments.
You gotta like earn the respect. And then, once you're there, you kind of stay there a little bit too long.
You stay an extra. You probably get there a year late and probably stay a year or two too long.
Yep.
Than you deserve. By the way, here's the numbers from 3-point territory in the entire playoff. So, and think about. Contrast this to, without getting into the numbers, what James Harden's done. Mm-hmm. We all know what he's done in the playoffs, which is basically nothing. All right, 49% in round one against Utah, and that is with 9 attempts a game. It's high.
This is from 3-point range.
Just from 3-point range.
9 attempts.
That's high volume. 9.
That's a lot. That's half his shots, dude.
True. 49.1%. The next series, the semis against the Clippers, 47%, and that was with 7 attempts a game, still a very good number on both ends, great numbers. And then this series so far is 44%. So, you got 44, you got 46, split that, you got 45. You go from 45 up to 49, about 47 change. He's right around 47% from downtown, from the playoffs, with double teams and high volume and high leverage stress shots. Think about the comebacks, where if he misses 1 or 2 of those, they're done.
Yeah, that's right. They're clutch.
Put some respect on the young man's name. Come on now, America. Let's go.
Come on. He's not Chris Paul yet.
Hey, listen.
Respect on my name.
Enough of this nonsense. Can't sleep on this kid anymore. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.